Hello and welcome to Crypto Weeklies. In this video, we compare gold versus Bitcoin. The chart that you are seeing on the screen is Bitcoin's price divided by gold's price. None of the content is financial advice. Right now, the price of BTC is at around 68,000. The price of gold is roughly speaking 5,000. So if you divide 68,000 by 5,000, you get somewhere close to that 13 level, where Bitcoin has come off from gold. Again, even despite uh, the macro environment for gold being bullish more than Bitcoin, in terms of Bitcoin's new all-time high against gold, that came in December 2024, not in October 2025. So in October 2025, Bitcoin topped on its USD pair at around 125,000, whereas in December 2024, price of BTC was at around 107k. Whereas in terms of removing the denominator from US dollars and replacing it with gold, what we have found that again, per this valuation, Bitcoin topped early on in the cycle with respect to gold. Again, and if you compare two hard assets such as Bitcoin and gold, again, not financial advice, this makes more sense than compare in some arenas, that it makes more sense that than comparing price of Bitcoin against USD and also gold against USD. So what we have over here, these are the monthly candles of Bitcoin versus gold comparison. In the 2021 bear market, sorry, following the 2021 rally in the 2022 bear market, the price of Bitcoin dropped with respect to gold in terms of percentages. If you compare, this was a 76% drop. This time around, thus far from that December 2024 high till now, the bottom that we got in terms of this month, that is February, the drop has been about 68.5% drop. So if you compare the bear market in terms of Bitcoin versus gold, this bear market started much early, around almost a year before the Bitcoin USD based bear market, which one could argue that it started somewhere in so this is Bitcoin versus gold again. If you compare Bitcoin on its USD pair, you could argue that the bear market for Bitcoin started in October 2025. So that headway, if we look for any price and time, both price and time based indicators. So how long did the bear market last from the peak till the bottom? So bottom for gold, BTC based bear market arrived in almost 14 months. If you look at the monthly candles, this time around 14 months have already transpired. Again, this is the 15th month, one could argue. So this end of February 2026 is 14 month. March would be the 15th month. So in terms of the time based drop that Bitcoin had in the last bear market against gold, we are at a similar time in the market cycle, where after 14 months of drop against gold in 2022, there was a recovery at the end of 2022, early 2023. So if something similar were to happen in terms of Bitcoin versus gold, either two possibilities. If both Bitcoin and gold were to fall, gold would have to fall more than Bitcoin so as to have a better valuation of Bitcoin against gold. So in terms of USD, there are two scenarios. If let's say gold goes up but Bitcoin goes up more, then this chart would start having a upward bias. If the other scenario is if Bitcoin goes down and gold goes down, but gold goes down more than Bitcoin, then still this chart can have an upward bias. But what can again, if the bottom is in, what cannot happen if let's say uh, Bitcoin also is bullish but gold becomes more bullish than this, that could be an invalidation of this scenario, of a bottoming scenario. Or if gold were to fall and Bitcoin were to fall more than gold, then again this valuation could go below the current lows. From a cycle to cycle perspective, what we haven't seen, or again, there is only limited evidence to that point, that let's say from the price range perspective, this is again the third major uh, bull market of Bitcoin against gold. If you compare the last drop uh, in terms of gold v BTC, Bitcoin dropped 84% against gold in 20 following the 2017 bull market in 2018 and early 2019. That drop against gold was 84% this time. Again, ignoring this chart for a moment over here, from 84% we went to 76% in 2022 2023, so about 8% lower. And another, if you take another 8% haircut on that one, again, if just to extrapolate that series of, let's say, diminished volatility to downside, again you can see there is a diminished volatility to upside. The all time high for Bitcoin was only marginally better in 2024 than in 2021, so one could argue that the drops could also be marginally worse than those in the prior cycle, that is. Um, so again, if you take 8 out away or subtract 8 from 76, you get a number similar to or closer to 68. So this could be one pivotal moment if this analysis were to hold true. Again, we haven't had much evidence of that happening. There isn't a bottoming candle which was similar to this shape over here, the monthly candle over here, where there weren't any lows, and just a solid candle body to the downside. This candle body looks more similar to, if let's say the end of in the end of month of February, if Bitcoin manages to catch up with gold and rally more than gold, let's say, then this candle over here in February looks more similar to the one in November 2022 than in December 2022. So this could be the second last month if the bottom is in terms of gold versus Bitcoin of that downturn. So that is one thing that I wanted to share. In terms of the shorter time period, such as the weekly time period, this is again Bitcoin versus gold. And in terms of instead of looking at in monthly candles, this looks at weekly candles over here. Again, the blue line which turns white is when Bitcoin is lower than so the price of Bitcoin is lower than the 200-week simple moving average against gold. This is when Bitcoin is in the bear market against gold, and the green line which turns red is when Bitcoin is lower than 300-week simple moving average. Right now, the 300-week simple moving average for gold BTC pair is at 21. The 200-week is at around 21.7. Roughly speaking, there is a chance that in couple of months from now, these averages might converge at one point. Nonetheless, in terms of the drawdown for Bitcoin with respect to gold, has have uh, even at this point have been more severe when compared to the last bear market, where the price of Bitcoin only went marginally lower than price of gold below the 300-week simple moving average. So the drop below the 300-week simple moving average was close enough to 20%. Again, if taking a raw number, whereas over here, if we take a drop, it's already measure the drop, it's already close to 40%. It's more than 2x of the last drop from the 300-week simple moving average. So that's one indicator to look for to if let's say Bitcoin and gold are correlated indeed, and if let's say they are having a range, a well defined range from here on. Again, I personally I don't believe that Bitcoin is only an oscillator against gold. There is no evidence to support that claim. From cycle to cycle, Bitcoin has made higher highs and higher lows against gold. So it's not a typical oscillator behavior that Bitcoin has exhibited. One could argue that that's because Bitcoin was very nascent in terms of its adoption uh, in 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 what you can say in a institutional asset class based adoption. But yeah, nonetheless, again, drawing this straight line would be difficult, as the highs for Bitcoin in 2024 were only marginally higher than those in 2021 2022 time period. Nonetheless, if we go by that oscillator theory, still in that oscillator theory, let's say we have a parallel channel somewhere over here where the midpoint of the valuation is over here, and there is a breakdown whenever this valuation goes below the yellow line, and then we extrapolate what is a peaking range over here. And again, if we go by that model, and if in 2028 2029 time period Bitcoin were to rally back to the top of the channel, again, price of gold being a constant, instead of looking at its USD price, whatever the price of gold is at that point, let's say gold also grows between now and then to somewhere close to, instead of being close to $5,000 right now, it's closer to 7,000. And if the Bitcoin were to go at the top of the channel at the valuation which is close to that 40 number over here, if you multiply, this is again the price of gold chart. Again, apologies for the pause over here. The current price of gold is at around $5,100. Let's say if we extrapolate that to 3 to 4 years from here and assume the price goes to $7,000, and Bitcoin against gold, again at the peak, goes to that 40 valuation. So multiplying 40 by 7,000, you get the price of Bitcoin at around $280,000 in 2028 2029, which would again be a 2x or slightly more than the 2x of the price of Bitcoin in 2024 20 sorry 2020 2025 time period, which peaked at around $125,000, which was less than 2x of the price at the peak, which was at around 68-69K over here. So the last peak was at around 68-69K, whereas this peak in October 2025 was at around 125K. So going from 125K to 280K in the next cycle would take some doing. If let's say gold struggles over here and only manages to go to, instead of 7,000, goes only to $6,000, then the price of Bitcoin at the peak would be at around $240,000, which would be less than 2x of the from the peak to peak from October 2025 to, let's say, October 2029 or September 2029, if there is again the 4-year cycle with 1 month taken away, like it was in the last cycle where the peak in 2021 came in November, whereas this time around it came in October. So subtracting 1 month over there, the price of gold, if it goes to 6,000, price of Bitcoin could go to 240,000. If let's say it stays at $5,000, then the price peak for Bitcoin could be around 200,000. So that's one way to estimate what the price could do with respect to Bitcoin versus gold pair. And again, if the people are more bearish on Bitcoin than let's say than they need to be, or again, if they believe that Bitcoin cannot go to the top of the channel anytime in the future, again especially in the next next bull market, then the midpoint theory can suggest that the worst case scenario for Bitcoin against gold could be somewhere close to that 30 level instead of 40 level. And if we go by that assumptions, again, if the price of gold stays where it is, the Bitcoin peak could be at 150K. If price of gold goes to $6,000, price of Bitcoin peaks at around 180K. If price of gold goes to $7,000, price of Bitcoin could go to 210K. So these are all the estimates based on Bitcoin gold pair. Again, not financial advice. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please give a like and subscribe, and hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.